Hello everyone, my name is John Bussart. I'm an HPE Business Transformation Center engineer for Ingram Micro. Help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HPE. In my videos, what I like to do is show you a slide from a popular PowerPoint and then demonstrate to you what that means within a management interface. Today, we're going to continue our conversation with the Nimble storage solution from HPE. In particular, we're going to be talking about basic management as well as volume creation. And to speak to that, I thought I would show you this slide. Now, this slide actually shows you the underlying architecture and how it maintains performance within an environment. If you've ran into somebody who's a legacy Nimble person, they may call this the castle architecture. Currently, we call this the Nimble OS. And this really maintains performance within the environment, whether we're talking about an all-flash array or a hybrid flash array, or sometimes people call it an adaptive flash array. An adaptive flash array, or again, a hybrid flash array, is really a solution that relies on spinning disk with just enough SSD drives to be able to augment performance. And again, you can get most of the performance that you get out of an all-flash array within the Nimble OS architecture. So how does that happen? Well, the two images in this slide really speak to write operations, but I'm going to really talk to this through write as well as read operations. But the most intensive thing you can do within a storage system is write. And what happens, again, if we look on the left, random blocks of data will come into the environment, they'll get put on the NVDIMMs within the controller, then automatically mirrored over to the NVDIMMs on the standby controller. Right? And then it'll get acknowledged. Right, so writes get acknowledged very quickly. This is a little bit different than a traditional storage system. A traditional storage system, generally speaking, will take those random blocks of data and write those off the disk and acknowledge them from off the disk. So in a Nimble OS environment, random blocks of data come in, they get protected, and they get acknowledged without even hitting a disk right away. So after that's happened, it throws the information through a variable block deduplication, a variable block compression. It makes a sequential strike, and then rolls that off to the spinning disk, keeping a copy within the SSD space. So it's important we size the SSD space because our reads are going to come off the SSDs more often than not. Right? So the Nimble OS is very adept at keeping hot blocks of data on the SSD drive, so it's very important that the amount of SSD space within a storage solution is correctly sized in order to be able to maintain that performance, to be able to handle all the hot blocks of data that might be within that environment. Right? So that's how write operations are made very fast, and read operations are made very fast within a Nimble OS environment. Now that as compared to a Nimble all-flash array, now that'll be very similar. So again, we got random blocks of data that come in, it'll get written off to the NVDIMM on the active controller and then duplicated over the standby controller's NVDIMM, and variable block deduplication, variable block compression, a sequence strike, and then it'll be rolled off the SSD disk space. And then again, all our reads will come off those SSDs, so we won't have any cache misses in order to save. So that's the basic foundation behind a Nimble storage solution through Nimble OS. Performance in these type of environments are less reliant on how many disk drives or SSD or flash drives we have sitting behind controllers, and it's really the performance is really bottled up within the controllers themselves. So with all that being said, let's explore this management interface. Okay, here's our Nimble storage system here. You can see I'm logged in through a web interface, right? And this IP address actually floats between both of the controllers inside the environment in event of failure. So let's log in. And we're dropped off at this main splash page for this environment, where here we can see any alarms that have happened, recent events. Down here we can see that our hardware is doing well. We can also see if there's any software or firmware updates that might be needed. You can see our protection or our snapshot schedule or our replication schedule that's happening. All right, our space utilization. You can see we're getting about a 5-to-1 utilization as far as our storage is concerned. And up here we can see performance. And again, I can highlight this see point in time numbers. There's not a lot of going on in the storage system, but I can look at latency, IOPS, right, as well as throughput. Items are clickable as well. For example, again, we're on this main Nimble storage. So if I click here, I'll always get back to this page. But say I click here, right, it brings me over to the hardware tab. Right, we get a view of the storage system. So this storage system is an all-flash AF40. And we can also see it is half populated with SSD drives. We can also see on the back that we have 2 controllers. And again, it's an active standby model. I can certainly make this active if I wanted to. You can see my 10 gig connection. So this is an iSCSI based system. Down here would be my management ports. These are SAS ports for additional storage shelves if I want to add them into this environment. So we'll go back to the main page. All right, so Nimble is about a lot of reporting or giving you a great amount of information within the environment. So as you can see, we're getting pretty good amount of information here. I can also look at the monitor tab as well. And you can see that when I click on that, I've got a list that pops up. I'm going to select capacity, and we'll see that list kind of expands horizontally here. Now, before I go into this, I really want to talk about groups. Groups are pools. You can see I have one default group. So I can group together storage systems together in a single entity. So again, if I go over to hardware here, I'm looking at my storage shelf. Again, these are my drives, and this is the back with the 2 controllers. Right, and I can have extra drive shelves off of this as well if I wanted to. I could take this setup and group them together or pool them together, right, making a single entity across multiple Nimble storage boxes. Right, and that's what that would be when we look at a pool or a group. And again, I just have the one storage system, so I just have this one default set here. Right. But we're under capacity, so we can see the capacity that's getting utilized. We can look at it over time. Right. Set custom values if we felt like it. You can see it broken down by application. So I basically have a volume that's presented for my VMware environments, a couple volumes for my VMware environments, as well as a couple other boot volumes here. Right. We could also look at performance. Right. We can see latency, IOPS, as well as throughput. Set these for some custom values as well as real time if we felt like it. We could look at the performance of the ports on the interfaces if we felt like it. So these are the management interfaces here. If I scroll down a little further, you will see the 10 gig interfaces. So again, this is an iSCSI solution. So our data is flowing through these 10 gig interfaces. Again, I could select any point in time, get a little bit more information on what's happening. All right, and then we can look at replication, the connections, as well as an audit log, which is just who's logged into this environment and when. So where the meat and potatoes of the management really happen with this environment, where you spend most of your time, is underneath the management tab. Again, I select the management tab. You see we have a menu here. I'm going to click on data storage right here. All right. You see that menu is also expanded horizontally. These are the volumes I have within this environment. All right. Again, we could see my group or my pool. We can see I have a default pool here. Now this down here just allows me to be able to restrict my view for very large environments. So for example, click the plus sign here, select my application category, and we'll select virtual servers. You notice that I'm just limited down to those two volumes I have presented to the VMware environments. So let's clear that out. Also, I have pool actions. So over here, I can edit my pool, right? And I could leave the pool or take the storage system, have it leave the grouping of storage systems, or if there are new available arrays, I could add them to this pool if I felt like it. Again, expanding my performance as well as my storage capability. All right, so let's go through the process of actually creating a volume in this environment. Again, these are all volumes down here. We're looking at a summary. Right now, we can look at it based on space, performance, some general information, as well as when it was last protected. All right, so again, summary. So to create a volume, what you do is you'll click this plus sign, and we'll give this volume a name. We'll select its location. Again, that's that pool. We're just using our default pool. And then next, we'll select a performance policy. Right. If I select the down arrow, see we have a variety of performance policies that have already been created. So let's talk a little bit about these performance policies. You'll want to select one that best matches your workload. I'm going to go over here. We're going to click cancel. You notice up here on the menuing, right, we have performance policies here. I'm going to select that. All right, and these are those same performance policies that we've seen on that list, on that drop-down list. All right. So what do these performance policies contain? Well, first they contain an application category. All right. Next, they contain a block size. Is compression enabled? Is deduplication enabled by default? And what happens if the space quota is exceeded? Are we saying it's non-writable or just readable? Right. Application category is just a reporting characteristic. If I didn't see an application that made sense to me in here, or an application performance policy that made sense to me, I could certainly create one if I wanted to. Go over here, click Add. Give it a name. Select an application category. Again, this is just for reporting. Block storage size, compression enabled, deduplication. So the same things that we've seen across on the menu. So I'm going to click cancel here. Let's go back to data storage. Let's go back to our volume creation. Again, select our location, our pool. Select our performance policy. What I'm going to select here is a Windows file server. Notice deduplication is enabled by default on newly created volumes. We're going to select the size. I don't know, we'll make something small, maybe 100 gigs. And next, we're going to select the data protection. All right, so I have a variety of data protection policies that are here. So let's talk a little bit about these data protection policies. So let me click cancel here. And you can see data protection up on this menu here. So data protection policies are actually snapshot schedules. Sometimes you'll hear these referred to as backups, right? Because with the snapshots that are in this environment, they're not necessarily, you don't have to manage any storage space or anything like that. They're more of a virtualized quality to them, I would say. Right? They don't impact performance in an environment. So let's create a volume collection or a data protection policy. So I'm going to click the plus sign up here. We could certainly create a template out of this and start from a template and adopt whatever that template had configured, but I'm going to select no template at this time. We could also select the type of replication we want to do. If we're using a synchronization service, any third-party integration, and then we'd select our schedule. So I don't know, why don't we do something like hour? Do every 1 hour, and we'll keep, I don't know, 20. We'll add to the schedule, and maybe we'll do a day. And we won't do it on Saturday and Sunday, maybe. And we'll retain 5 of these. We'll add another schedule. Maybe we'll do a week. And do a backup every week, and maybe we'll do that on Saturday. And I don't know, maybe we'll only hold that for maybe about 12 weeks or 12, retain 12 snapshots. So we'll add this schedule. And maybe we'll do one every 4 weeks so we can have a monthly one. Again on Saturday, and we'll retain 12 of those. All right, we'll click next. Now, if I didn't have any volumes that didn't have any backup policies assigned to them or data protection policies assigned to them, I could add them. Everything I have currently created has been assigned, so that's why we're not seeing anything here. We're just going to create this. Okay, so we successfully created that, and there it sits. Let's go back over to data storage. Let's create our volume. Select our default pool. Again, we'll select our performance policy for Windows File Server. Again, we'll make it kind of small, about 100 gigs. We'll select our data protection. And then access. So what systems are we going to allow to have access? So this isn't too difficult. If you've done a zoning or you've done iSCSI, target initiator type of things, you do that underneath data access up here, and all you do is put the IQN name or the worldwide name in there. Make sure everything was zoned correctly, and it would show up, and you'd give it a name. So next, obviously with iSCSI, we'd want to use chat, but I'm just kind of showing you something quickly, so I'm going to do unrestricted access to that. So obviously you'd want to use chat to make sure people are securely logging into the volume. So next we're going to click Create. Now that system, I presented that to that volume. That's this guy over here. Now certainly with iSCSI, I could use the iSCSI initiator if I wanted to be able to connect into this environment if I felt like it. Right? Right. Or what you'd probably want to do is use the Nimble Connection Manager. So this is a fresh install of the Nimble Connection Manager. It's just an executable. It'll make the process of setting up the iSCSI paths a lot easier in a Nimble environment. So it's pretty handy. So let's launch it again. I just installed it on the system. So what I want to do is pick the interfaces that I want traffic to flow through. So I don't want traffic to go through that adapter as well as this adapter here. And I just want to go through the two 10 gig adapters. Next, I want to add a storage system. And it's discovered both of my Nimble boxes on my network. So we'll select this guy, click OK, and she shows up there. And then next, I look under Nimble volumes. We can see the Nimble volume, that volume I just created right here. So I'm going to click Connect. And you'll probably want to leave connected startups every time the Windows system boots up and we connect to this volume. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to click OK, and now that volume is ready. So I'll right click over here, go over to Disk Management, and there's our 100 gig volume. Make that online. We'll initialize it. And again, we'll format that guy on out. Right, so there we go. We have this volume ready to roll. Now to get rid of this volume, you could certainly go over here and do a disconnect. Right, now to delete that within this interface, one of the first things you'll need to do is set it to be offline. All right, because if I go over here and I try to delete it, it'll tell me that online volumes cannot be deleted. So I'll go over here, set it to offline, select yes, right, and now I'll be able to delete it. And it's going to let me know that we're going to stop protecting it. So if I actually do delete now without clicking it says I must remove it from the volume collection or remove the snapshots as well. So I'm going to stop protecting and click delete, and you can see that volume is gone. All right, so that's basic management and volume creation within a Nimble storage solution. I hope you found this video informative. and please stay tuned for more videos.